Hi folks, are you thinking of starting up a t-shirt printing business working from home and you don't know which system to go for? There's screen printing, there's transfer printing, there's vinyl printing, there's embossed stamping. What one do you start off with? Let me show you and give you some pointers. Right, 13 years ago when I started in the t-shirt business, I was probably where you are, and I didn't know which system to start off with. I had some money to invest. I didn't want to spend it incorrectly and waste money, so I needed to know right at the very beginning what was the best system for me. Now, I went onto forums and I had a look around there, and there was so many conflicting information, especially as a beginner coming into an established t-shirt forum, for example, that you're treated basically with contempt because you're asking basic questions which to you are very important to get you started to make your important decision at the beginning. And all you kept getting is people who have been on there for long periods of time, and all they say to you is do your own research, look in the comment sections and find the search facility on the website and do your own research, because we've covered this before many times. And that 9 times out of 10 puts you off because you don't know what you're searching for. You don't know whether you're going to be doing screen printing, you don't know whether you're going to be doing transfer printing, you don't know about the transfers, that there are different types of transfer papers, which ones are the best, which ones are not meant for permanent use. There's a blinking minefield out there, and at the end of the day, then you've got to buy your equipment, which you probably don't know which is the best equipment, and you try and glean information off of other people, and there's pros and cons all the time. You can never get a straight answer. That's the situation I was in. That's what I come up with 13 years ago, just over 13 years ago now, and as a result of that, I did waste a lot of money, and I did buy the wrong equipment, and I bought the materials from different people. In other words, trying to marry up information from different people on the forums and using it to my ability, which I didn't know was the right thing. Cut a long story short, I ended up wasting money. I had unsuccessful attempts at doing transfers printing because I was using the wrong transfer papers, and you get people saying that these are rubbish, that is rubbish, these are what you want to be using, that's what I use, and I've been using them for years. Then other people say they're no good, blah blah. Too many variables. So that's why I created my training DVD, how to start a t-shirt printing business from home, using my knowledge and experience, what I've gained over the 13 years. And all I'll say to you is that I initially spent money and wasted it when I went there into the forums looking for answers. After making the mistakes with the different printers, the different types of inks, and also the different materials like the different transfer papers, I found what works for what I wanted to do right at the very beginning. And to this day, I'm basically still using exactly the same setup. So I've got 13 years experience in doing this, and I don't bother going into forums. I've looked in forums and I've seen that people say that I'm just trying to make money out of what I do. What they don't realise is these people in forums is that I provide evidence and proof in my YouTube videos so that you can see on a one-to-one basis. People in forums, you never know where they've got their information from because they've got nothing to back it up. They might have thousands and thousands of posts, but there's no hard and fast rules, and it's very common for people in forums to just literally parrot-fashionally repeat what they've heard what they think are successful people say, and you get a lot of that in forums. You don't get that with my DVDs and also with my information videos on YouTube. You get people also say that I've been into forums myself and had a look, and I've had people say that I don't provide any proof, I'm just trying to sell a DVD, and anyway, I do sell a DVD, but what's wrong with that? Because I back up my DVD promise when I say to people that I'm going to provide you with information and ongoing support. I actually do that. I email people back on a personal thing. So I've got nothing to hide there when I say that. And I've also had people say, oh yeah, the transfer papers that he uses, he says you have to cold wash them. I've never ever said that. I don't know where they get their information washed. All I've ever said on the YouTube videos which I produce, which you can go and have a look at, is that the transfer papers which I use, you have to do a cool wash, which is 40 degrees and below. And if you go above that, then obviously, that's not me speaking, that's the manufacturer's instructions on the transfer papers that I use. So that's not me saying that. And one other thing to say is that when you are choosing your initial startup, you've got to realise that you're probably going to be starting off as a one-man band. In other words, you're going to be doing one t-shirt maybe at a time for friends and family. That's how I started off. And then you may go onto Facebook, then you may go onto eBay, and before you know it, you're getting known out there, and you're getting clubs and people saying that they want to have about 10 or 20 t-shirts printed. That happened to us, and we've printed up to probably about 90 to 100 shirts in one go for someone in a club, for example, and they're returning customers. But right at the beginning, you need to know what you want to be doing, and that is printing the odd t-shirt, possibly as a hobby to start off with. We've had this t-shirt here. This is a repeat customer again, and again, this is just a little breast logo on this polo shirt, as you can see, and turning it round as well. As you can see, it's got a graphic on it, and it's got a bit of text on it as well. Now that graphic and text we keep in a file on our computer, but as I said, because it's a returning customer, and all we do when we get a customer come up with an odd shirt, which we get that quite a lot, and we have to change something like the writing the name of the person on there, for example, it's easy just to pull up on the software, the Cameo Silhouettes software that cuts out, this is vinyl by the way, clothing vinyl, and it's very easy to adapt and to change things in the software and obviously apply it to one garment. So right at the beginning, the reason why I chose t-shirt transfer printing and also vinyls is that screen printing in an ideal world we'd all be doing screen printing, because screen printing is the benchmark of t-shirt graphics, you could say. Very good durability washing. They use what they call plastisol inks. Now you can't print these at home, not on a normal printer for example. You have to have plastisol inks and you have to make up screens, which is why it's called screen printing. They have to be set out in a light to develop, and then you wash away the existing film fluid, and you're left with the graphic. And then you have to do a screen basically for every different colour involved. So if you try and buy a screen printed T-shirt for anything from 10 or below, you'd never do it, because no one's going to go to the extent of making up one screen or a number of screens for one t-shirt, for example. That is where you find transfer printing and vinyls is the way to go, because you can pull off one single graphic, store it on your PC, and then print it out. You can do the same with that. You can do the same with transfer papers. A little word about transfer papers is that there are different quality of transfer papers. The transfer papers I use are the papers that I've been using for the past 13 years. I've never veered away from that. I did at the beginning, as you know, I've just told you. I tried many different types, and even people who have sent me papers for me to try out, and I've actually reviewed on my channel, which didn't turn out to be any good at all. So I've always stuck to the same paper. I haven't got a new paper that's come along yet to actually compete with the original papers that I use. You may have seen that I've recently done a review on the Forever papers, and also the Ghost White transfer, which I'm still testing out at the moment, and you'll obviously be seeing up and coming videos on that as well. They are a little bit game changers if they if they turn out to be okay. But one of the biggest drawbacks I found with them was that I didn't have the correct press. They like to use a swing away press, the people who actually design these papers, and in all their trials that they do on their websites or on their YouTube videos, they're using the swing away press. So that's the way to go. I've now got one of them, so that's why I'm reviewing them. So basically, yeah, at the very beginning, your transfer papers are very important and easy to use, and also you need a decent heat press as well. A decent heat press. I've had a few people contact me recently saying that they've watched my DVD, and then they've gone out and bought a heat press, and then they've contacted me afterwards and said that I've now got one of these presses. Is it any good? I've had 2 people this week say that, and I said if you would have just watched the DVD, exercised your right to contact me on a one-to-one basis by email, and I would have said don't buy that press. But at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can't force people to get in contact with me. It's something they have to do of their own accord. I've also had people who have watched the DVD, not take advantage of them contacting me, and gone straight back into forums, and then they're finding all this conflicting information which you get in forums. The reason why you buy my DVD is to follow what I do, and I'll show you exactly what I do. I've been doing it for 13 years, and I haven't veered from that formula. The formula shows old stuff in the DVD, old equipment, but that's all been modernised now. As you know, I've got an Epson 1500W printer there. I've also got the Galaxy DP200 swing away press. That's what I've modified, and I started off with a Styles Hotronics. Before I had the Styles Hotronics, I had a cheap press which I bought off of eBay. I think it cost me about 170, 200 pounds. That was okay for mouse mats, but for when it comes for printing t-shirt graphics with t-shirt transfers, it didn't want to know. I had someone contact me this week saying that they've bought a press, I won't mention its name, but they said they've been using vinyls absolutely fine. They've watched my DVD, they're now using the transfer papers that I use, and they said they're having issues with it coming off. I've already told them that it was the press they was using and not the transfer papers. They've been totally consistent for the last 13 years. You see people saying that they use the transfer papers that I use and they cracked and peeled. And the reason being is because it's their heat press which is letting them down, because it's not heating up constantly, which you need to seal that ink into the actual t-shirt as well. And that's not happening when you're using inferior press. So you might be using the right transfer papers, but you've got an inferior press. Once you follow someone who you believe to be doing what you want to be doing, that's the way to go. Don't bother with forums. Go there for a bit of technical advice if you're looking on information on a press, for example. I can't give you that information. So many people come to me and say, what press do I buy? I say, you can only see what I'm using. This is what's worked for me. If you're after a press with one that I've not had any experience with, your best bet is to go to Google, type in the press name with the word review after it, and see if there's any information on there where someone's done a review on it. And don't just take the word of one person doing a review, because you'll get some people who put bad reviews out just for the sake of putting a bad review out, or they may have had a bad experience, which is out of the norm. So once you've found the one, you've done the reviews, then contact the supplier, because there are a lot of people who advertise, whether it's printing information or sublimation, and they just basically buy equipment or stuff in and they sell it. So in other words, they're like a middleman who just brings it into the country via China, for example, and then they just either sell it or they drop ship it, which means they don't actually handle the goods. They're not suppliers to the industry. They just basically want to make money out of buying and selling stuff, and they found the printing game is a good way to do that. So if you can't physically contact a company with regards to finding out any more information, you can't talk to someone on a one-to-one basis about the equipment that you're buying, I wouldn't buy from that supplier, because that basically means they could either be drop shipping or they're just suppliers in it for the money. You want to be talking to someone who's a professional in the game, in other words, a supplier that buys and sells and actually uses the equipment, and these are the ones who you should be buying from, not just any Tom, Dick or Harry that you see on a website or on eBay, for example. In other words, if you can't phone these people up, don't bother buying from them. Look for someone where you've got some sort of one-to-one communication, because if you do have a problem with your press and you've just brought it off of an eBay seller with no contact information, you're never ever going to get any problem solved with that person, because they just import them. It's part of a job lot, and 9 times out of 10 you may get your money back, but you're not going to get no first-hand support for any teething problems which you might be having. Anyway, so the way I started off was with transfer papers and also vinyls. The reason being is that you can produce little one-offs like this, because that's what you're going to be doing right at the very beginning of your t-shirt printing careers. And you may want to continue as I've done. You can do anything from up to 100 t-shirts, I would say, using t-shirt transfers and also vinyls. And the thing is, if you want to go further than that, I've had people who have started getting their foot or their toe in the water in the t-shirt printing business, and then they've gone on to start screen printing businesses and working out of a unit, for example, and also selling to large merchandising companies where you can literally roll them off with a big carousel type printing setup, and that is a more professional basis, and that way you're earning a lot of money doing these, but you've got to have the contacts, and you're never going to get into that straight away. So stepping stones, start the right way, get the right equipment, get the right information, go to someone where you can get some information from on a regular basis if you need advice and information, and don't believe what you hear in forums. There's a lot of things in forums about me, none of it's true. And that's it. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this little video. And if you want to start working from home, this could be an ideal little business. It is all learnable skills. This is equipment which you can easily set up in a house or a workshop or something, or a spare room. And as many people have done, make of it what you want. Treat it as a hobby and then slowly start to grow it. Thanks very much. See you in the next video. And until then, bye for now.